Right now, significant developments are emerging around Canada's participation in the European Political Community Summit in Yerevan, Armenia. Early reports and official statements highlight strengthened engagement with European partners. Here's what verified sources are telling us and what you need to know. But what actually led to this situation? What are the real implications for Canada's international position? And what could realistically happen next? Let's break down the facts. Welcome back to Canada Pulse, your trusted source for fact-based updates on Canadian public policy, economy, housing, and national developments. We use verified information from official government sources, credible news outlets, and expert analysis to help you understand what's really happening in Canada. I'm your host, and today we're examining Canada's involvement in the Yerevan Summit using only confirmed information and responsible interpretation. Now, if you're a business owner involved in international trade, a worker in sectors like defense or resources, or simply someone who cares about Canada's place in the world and how global events might influence energy prices, supply chains, or economic stability here at home, this situation may have indirect effects depending on how policies develop over the coming months. I want to be clear, we're going to walk through this together, step by step, using only what we know for certain, what experts are saying, and what official sources have confirmed. No hype, no guessing. Just facts. If you want to stay updated as this story evolves, and trust me, international relations continue developing, make sure you're subscribed to Canada Pulse and hit that notification bell so you don't miss critical updates. Before we continue, a quick disclaimer. This video is for informational and educational purposes only. It should not be considered financial, legal, or professional advice. Always verify information with official Canadian government sources like Canada.ca and consult qualified professionals for personal decisions. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding of what's happening right now, why it matters to Canadians, what the potential outcomes could be, and most importantly, what to watch for next. All right, let's start from the beginning. To understand what's happening today, we need to look at how we got here. Here's the thing, this summit participation didn't emerge in isolation. Let me take you back a bit. In recent years, Canada has navigated complex global relationships, particularly with our closest neighbor to the south. According to official government releases and credible reporting, Prime Minister Mark Carney's government has emphasized diversifying partnerships amid evolving international dynamics. The European Political Community, or EPC, is a forum for political coordination among European countries. And Canada was invited as a guest for this gathering in Yerevan, Armenia. This marks the first time a non-European leader has joined the summit in this capacity. Fast forward to early May 2026, Prime Minister Carney, accompanied by Foreign Minister Anita and other officials, traveled to Armenia. Anand, who was appointed to the Foreign Affairs portfolio in the current cabinet, has been actively engaged in these files. Why does this matter? Well, Canada has long maintained relationships with European allies through NATO, trade agreements, and shared values on issues like security and democracy. The trip includes bilateral meetings and participation in discussions focused on security, Ukraine support, and broader cooperation. Official statements highlight advancing partnerships in trade, investment, and strategic areas. Now, this is important to note. Experts have pointed out that Canada's foreign policy has elements of continuity, but also adaptation to current global realities, including economic diversification goals. Some analysts describe a shift toward closer practical alignment with European partners on certain files, while others emphasize that core interests like rules-based international order remain consistent. Let me explain why this context is key. In a world with ongoing conflicts, supply chain vulnerabilities, and energy considerations, middle powers like Canada are positioning themselves through multilateral engagement. The visit to Yerevan, including Anand's stop at the Armenian Genocide Memorial, aligns with Canada's historical recognition of the Armenian genocide and support for related commemorations. So that brings us to what's happening right now. And this is where things get interesting. First, let's talk about the summit participation. According to Prime Minister's office releases and on-the-ground reporting, Carney addressed leaders at the European Political Community Summit, emphasizing cooperation on security and other priorities. Canada announced commitments, including support related to Ukraine. Foreign Minister Anita Anand joined these efforts, holding talks with her Armenian counterpart and visiting the Tsitsernakaberd Memorial. This reflects ongoing diplomatic engagement. Second, we're seeing signals of deeper practical ties. Canada has been involved in initiatives initiatives like the EU mission in Armenia, and this summit provides a platform for further discussions on trade, critical minerals, and security cooperation. Officials have indicated interest in strengthening these areas. Here's why this matters. In simple terms, these engagements may help diversify Canada's international economic relationships. The impact here could affect trade-dependent sectors depending on how agreements are implemented over the coming years. And third, and this might be noteworthy, the presence alongside leaders like those from Europe highlights Canada's role as an engaged partner beyond traditional North American frameworks. Early signals from meetings show discussions on shared challenges. This may lead to incremental advancements in specific cooperation areas, experts suggest. Depending on how this unfolds, we could see targeted opportunities in investment and policy alignment, though outcomes remain subject to negotiations and domestic priorities. Now let's dig deeper into what analysts and experts are saying about all of this. According to reporting from outlets like the Canadian Press and CBC, some observers note a pragmatic shift in emphasis toward European partnerships for economic resilience. International studies professors, such as Jean-François Rattel at the University of Ottawa, have commented on the balance between interests and traditional advocacy roles. Okay, so here's where it gets a bit technical, but stay with me. I'm going to break this down. Analysts point to potential benefits in areas like critical minerals supply for Europe's green transition, where Canada ranks strongly. Trade diversification could provide buffers against bilateral pressures, but here's the counter-argument. Other perspectives emphasize that Canada must carefully manage resources and avoid overextension. Foreign policy involves trade-offs, and focusing on European forums doesn't replace the importance of North American economic integration. In plain English, what experts are highlighting is that closer ties can open doors, but also require clear prioritization. Economic implications include possible new investment flows, while policy analysis suggests continuity in NATO commitments alongside these engagements. Historically, Canada has balanced multilateralism with bilateral realities. This current approach reflects adaptation in a changed global environment with potential for both opportunities and challenges in implementation. All right, let's make this personal. Who exactly is affected by this and how? For businesses engaged in exports, developments in European trade talks could influence market access in sectors like resources, technology, or agriculture. According to general trade data trends, diversification efforts may support stability depending on outcomes. For workers in defense and related industries, ongoing NATO and security cooperation discussions could relate to procurement and partnership opportunities, potentially affecting jobs indirectly. Small business owners involved in supply chains should pay attention because shifts in international alignments can influence costs or opportunities over time. Students and young Canadians interested in international affairs or global careers might see expanded exchange or professional pathways through stronger people-to-people ties. Now, I know this might feel abstract for many, but remember, we're talking about potential longer-term impacts, not immediate guaranteed changes. A lot will depend on how negotiations progress and domestic economic policies. One thing that's really important to understand is NCD ansa ber ensum. This doesn't affect every part of Canada the same way. In Ontario and Quebec, with strong manufacturing and financial sectors, enhanced European links could support investment and trade flows. Alberta and the Prairies, with energy and agriculture focus, may monitor opportunities in critical minerals or export diversification. British Columbia, with its port and trade orientation, often benefits from broader international engagement. Atlantic Canada has unique considerations around fisheries, energy, and defense activities that intersect with allied cooperation. By the way, drop a comment and let me know which province you're watching from. I'm curious to see where our Canada Pulse community is tuning in from today. So what is the federal government actually doing about this? Let's look at the official response. Prime Minister Carney has framed the trip around advancing cooperation on key files. Official statements stress partnership building. Foreign Minister Anand's participation, including bilateral meetings, supports execution of these priorities. The government plans continued engagement through multilateral and bilateral channels. Opposition parties have their perspectives, often calling for clear accountability on outcomes and balancing multiple relationships. Whether you agree with specific critiques or not, parliamentary oversight plays an important role. What's interesting here is the emphasis on practical results alongside diplomatic presence. Analysis suggests a mix of continuity in alliances with targeted new initiatives. Okay, before we go further, I need to address some misinformation that's circulating online about this topic. Myth number 1, this represents a complete break from North American relations. Reality, official policy continues to recognize the importance of key trading partners while pursuing diversification. Diplomacy involves multiple tracks. Myth number 2, the trip signals dramatic, immediate economic transformation. Reality, while there is engagement on trade and investment, such summits typically lay groundwork rather than deliver instant overhauls. Results take time and negotiation. Myth number 3, Canada is abandoning traditional foreign policy principles. Reality, this is a case where facts are being taken out of context. Canada maintains positions on issues like Ukraine support and rules-based order, as seen in announcements. The full picture includes both new forums and long-standing commitments. This is exactly why it's so important to rely on official sources like Canada.ca, verified news outlets, and credible expert analysis. All right, so now that you understand what's happening, let's talk about what you can actually do with this information. Step 1, stay informed. First, bookmark official Canadian government websites. The main one is Canada.ca. For trade information, check Global Affairs Canada. Set up alerts for credible updates. Step 2, monitor developments. Second, this situation is still developing. Follow credible Canadian news sources like CBC, CTV, and Globe and Mail, and stay subscribed to Canada Pulse. Step 3, consult professionals. Third, if international events relate to your business or investments, speak with qualified professionals such as trade advisors or financial advisors. Step 4, prepare, don't panic. Fourth, preparation is smart, panic is not. Focus on sound long-term planning. Step 5, engage civically. Finally, contact your member of parliament if you have views on foreign policy priorities. So where does this go from here? Let me give you a roadmap of what to watch for. Short term, next 2 to 6, esser all ner hours. Keep an eye on readouts from bilateral meetings and any follow-up announcements on cooperation initiatives. Medium term, next 2 to 3 months. Watch for progress on trade or investment discussions and related policy statements. Long term, 6 to 12 months, and see broader outcomes in diversification efforts and alliance coordination will become clearer. Mark your calendar for upcoming international meetings, including potential NATO-related events. What do you think happens next? Drop your predictions in the comments. And if you're from a specific province, let us know what you're most concerned about in your region. All right, let's wrap this up. So here's what we know for certain. Prime Minister Carney and Minister Anand participated in the Yerevan summit, engaging with European and regional partners. This reflects ongoing efforts to strengthen certain international relationships. This situation is still developing. Government responses and negotiations will shape impacts. What we can say with confidence is that Canada continues active diplomatic engagement. What remains uncertain is the precise long-term results of specific initiatives. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the sky is falling, because it's not. But I'm also not going to pretend this doesn't matter, because diplomacy does. The truth is somewhere in the middle. This is desem ifmar in der itur or in hakster, de trida middle, de ner in. This is a notable development that deserves attention. Stay informed by following verified updates. Subscribe to Canada Pulse if you haven't already. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. Share it with someone who needs to understand what's happening. I'm your host, this is Canada Pulse, and I'll see you in the next update. Take care.